Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال الله تعالى في القرآن الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن تبدوا ما في أنفسكم وتخفوه يحاسبكم به الله ويغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير صدق الله العظيم. This verse which I have recited is of course quite well known, occurring at the beginning of the last section of Surah Baqarah, and it translates as follows: To Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth, and whether you manifest what is in your minds or hide it, Allah will call you to account according to it. So He forgives whom He pleases and punishes whom He pleases. And Allah is powerful over all things. Chapter 2, verse 284. Now, regarding the opening words of this verse, one may say, opening words, that is to say, whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth belongs to Allah. We may say that various nations and religions think that they control this world and the hereafter. Those nations who make progress in the life of this material world, they fall into the trap of thinking that they are the special ones who have been chosen to own the world. And those people who follow various religions, they believe that they own the hereafter. It is for them. The good of the hereafter, they believe, is only accessible to them or through them. But we are told here that all of this good belongs to God permanently and absolutely. It is no one else's automatic right. And it is only by following the principles which God has established for the attainment of material and spiritual progress that any nation or any religious community is granted the bounties of this world and the hereafter. It is not a right due to anyone because of their race or where they were born or their religion. And this is one of the meanings of the words to Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth. And then it goes on to say, and whether you manifest, that is to say, disclose, show openly, whether you manifest what is in your minds or hide it, Allah will call you to account according to it. And manifesting here refers to a person's openly known deeds. And hiding refers to those of his deeds which are not known to other people. Now, in an earlier verse, shortly before this, about 13 verses before this, it is stated in the Holy Quran, in tubdu sadaqate fane imma hiya wa in tukhfuha wa tatuha al-fuqara fa huwa khairul lakum wa yukaffiru ankum min sayyiatikum wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. And that translates as follows: if you manifest charity, how excellent it is. And if you hide it and give it to the poor, it is good for you. And it will do away, that is to say, that act of giving charity, it will do away with some of your evil deeds. And Allah is aware of what you do. Chapter 2, verse 271. When charity is given openly for some national cause or a cause of the community, it encourages those who see it and they are motivated to join in and then give themselves. People need to see an example of a good deed being done by other people who are like themselves, so that they can be inspired to do it themselves as well. And it says here that charity given openly, if you manifest charity, it is excellent. That charity is excellent. But sometimes it is not appropriate to give it openly. For example, to help an individual, particularly if the individual is going to feel belittled and embarrassed if he is given something in the full view of others, the full knowledge of others. So it's best to do this without knowledge of others. And it says here that hiding what you're giving in charity, if you hide it and give it to the poor, that is good for you. Regarding the manifest charity, it said it is excellent, and here it says it is good for you. When a person gives openly in public view, it is always possible that a feeling of impressing other people and making a display of superiority over other people may arise in his heart. Not that is his or her aim, but as a natural emotion may arise in his or her heart. But when giving secretly, this possibility is eliminated. So in that sense, giving something while hiding that action of giving it, in that sense, it is good for the soul. It is good for you, it says here. Now this verse tells us that Allah will judge a person by what is in his mind, whether he manifests it in an action or whether his action is hidden. He will judge a person by what is in his mind, that is to say, his intention in doing the deed. Now, there is a repeated hadith, and it's not the one which you will think of. You will be thinking of the well-known hadith that al-amalu bin niyyah, that actions will be judged by intention, which Imam Bukhari has put at the beginning of his collection, and it occurs elsewhere as well. But the hadith I'm referring to, there's a repeated hadith, yubasun naso ala niyatihim, and it occurs in slightly different versions as well. And what that means is, on the day of judgment, people will be raised up according to their intentions. And as I said, that occurs in various forms as well. Now, an apparently good deed, in other words, a manifested action, a deed which appears to be good, but done with a bad intention, for example, the intention of making a show, that will be judged according to the intention of the person who did it. Now, on the opposite side, a deed may appear to people to be bad, not that it's actually a bad deed, may appear to people to be bad. And I'll give some examples of it. A prophet, or we can also say a mujaddid, does certain things which people condemn as bad, and they make those a reason for rejecting him. For example, the marriages of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the fact that he fought a number of battles, that is held by many of his detractors against him, and they are the basis of most of the hostile criticism directed against him, especially in modern times. Yet these were done under God's command with noble intentions. So the deeds were considered bad by people, but they were done with noble intentions and served a good purpose. Similarly, there are certain writings of the founder of the Ahmadiyya movement, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, which are criticized, which he wrote with good intention. For example, he criticized certain actions of Jesus as recorded in the Gospels, as they're attributed to him in the Gospels. He criticized some of those actions. And his Muslim opponents expressed outrage and alleged that he was speaking ill of a prophet. He was abusing a prophet of God. But he replied that what he was finding fault with was not the actual actions of Jesus, but those actions which are wrongly attributed to him in the Gospels and which we don't believe ever committed. And the founder of the Ahmadiyya movement said, my intention in doing this is to show the critics and detractors of Islam that whatever charges they lay against the Holy Prophet ﷺ, they can also be leveled against their own holy men, on the basis of their own scriptures. So that was his intention. But the act looked bad to people. Just like the Holy Prophet fighting battles, which were necessary for survival, they were necessary for retaliation, justified retaliation. But people and critics considered that as a black mark against him. So those actions which people considered bad, but they were actually done with a good intention. They weren't bad if you looked at them objectively, they will be judged by that person's intention. And we've been talking about open and manifested deeds up to now. Now, if we take secret or hidden actions, a person does acts of goodness privately and quietly. People don't know this, and they don't have a good word to say about him because they don't know that underlying he's doing all this good. But God judges him by his intention. And yet we have another person who carries out conspiracies and intrigues against others secretly. And people don't know this, and they regard him as a good person. But again, God will judge him and call him to account by his intentions. Now, so this verse teaches us that the good or the bad of an action is not determined by whether the action is done publicly or done without showing it to people. That is not what makes it good or bad. And this is important because this was one of the matters on which the Jews and the Christians had gone to opposite extremes. The Jews came to believe, and they believed this by the time of Jesus, who was among them. They came to believe that only outward actions have any value, that religious duties should be carried out with much ceremony and advertisement to assure other people that we are sticking to religion. That's what they came to believe. And Jesus condemned this behavior. And he instructed his followers to do all these acts secretly so that no one but God can know that they have performed them. This is what he said about prayer. This is from the Gospel of Matthew chapter 6. He said about prayer to his followers, "But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place." And about fasting, he said to his followers that you should fast in a way so that you do not appear to people to be fasting. And about charity, he said, "But when you do a charitable deed, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your charitable deed may be in secret." So that even your left hand doesn't know, let alone other people. Now his followers, Jesus' followers of later times, took this to the extreme of believing that no religious act needs to be performed openly and to be performed following set rules or any set structure. That's what they came to believe. And if you look at the implications of these two opposite attitudes, if a person believes that what is important, the most important thing is to carry out religious duties mechanically by his bodily actions, and that the involvement of his heart and soul is only a secondary and unimportant matter. The person who believes that all he is gaining by his devotions, you'll have to excuse me for just a second. Sorry about that. All he is gaining by his devotions is that people can see him being devout and religious. That's all he is gaining. So gradually, that becomes his aim, to look good before others. And even if it's not actively his aim, at least that person just becomes fully satisfied by the bodily performance and believes that he has completed his duty. Now, on the opposite side, if people believe only in the importance of performing religious duties privately without being seen by anyone. If that's what they believe, how can they teach these duties to others? How can they be examples to other people? And gradually, they will lose the motivation to do them. And the rules and structures that we have, such as saying prayers at certain times in a certain manner or fasting on certain days, this enables us to overcome carelessness and laziness and putting things off to another time and then never actually getting round to doing them. So what the Holy Quran teaches is that we must maintain both the outward form and the inner spirit. We must perform the outward manifest actions as well as the private acts unknown to anyone else. And so it is wrong to think, as the Jews came to hold later on, that a good deed can only be one which is visible and apparent to everyone. And it is wrong to think, as the later Christians came to hold, that a good deed can only be one which is secret, kept secret and hidden from others. And our deeds should be like a floating iceberg in the sea, not the iceberg which the ship Titanic collided with, but they should be like a floating iceberg in the sea. When you have an iceberg floating in the sea, a proportion of it is above the water level. I think it's about 1/6 or 1/7 is above the water level and visible. Most of it is underwater and not visible. So that is what our good deeds should be like, that they are visible, but a large part of them are not visible and done hidden and secretly. And finally, there is the statement in this verse that that God forgives whom he pleases and punishes whom he pleases. And this occurs in other places in the Holy Quran as well. Now, what it means is that no human being can claim to know that certain people will be forgiven by God and certain others will be punished. What we can know are only the ways which lead to forgiveness and the ways which lead to punishment. What we don't know is who is following them and with what intention or sincerity of heart or otherwise. And even regarding the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the Holy Quran in one place, or God in the Holy Quran in one place, addresses him as follows. I'll read the verse out in translation. You, meaning the Holy Prophet ﷺ, you have no concern in the matter whether God turns to them, turns to his opponents, mercifully or he punishes them. Surely they are wrongdoers. And to Allah belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth. He forgives whom he pleases and punishes whom he pleases. And Allah is forgiving, merciful. So having mentioned punishment, still the attributes of God that it ends with are, and Allah is forgiving, merciful. Chapter 3, verses 128 to 129. And as you can see here, the last part is the same as in the verses that I've been dealing with in this khutbah from Surah Baqarah, that whatever is in the heavens and in the earth belongs to Allah, and he forgives whom he pleases and punishes whom he pleases. These are in common. The meaning of whom he pleases, whether it's forgives whom he pleases or punishes whom he pleases, the meaning of whom he pleases is not that God is like a king, a despot, or a dictator who doesn't follow any rules, but purely out of his whim and desire, or however what mood takes him on a particular day. That's what despot or dictator does. He arbitrarily decides whether to punish someone or to forgive someone without following any rule principle. It's what he feels like doing today. God is not like such a despot or dictator following no rules. The meaning is that only God has the full knowledge for deciding who deserves forgiveness and who deserves punishment. And on the basis of his perfect knowledge, God may forgive someone who we think should be punished, and he may punish someone who we think should be forgiven. So that is the meaning of this verse, and not that God is some sort of a dictator like the dictators we've had, for example, in the Muslim world, so that it's just up to them for no reason, no rhyme or reason, following no principle. They decide to reward someone or decide to punish someone. So Allah is not like that. He has laid down the rules which he himself follows as well. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafa'na wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim. Innahu ta'ala jawadun karimun malakum barur raufur rahim. Alhamdulillah. نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. May Allah raise most highly and greatly the ranks and degrees and status of the Holy Prophet Muhammad and his true followers, and make them a great blessed nation, as he promised to do with Abraham and his followers. And that promise then transferred to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his ummah. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana. O our Lord, make not our hearts deviate after you guided us. La tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmah. And grant us mercy from yourselves. Hab lana min ladunka rahmah innaka antal wahhab. You are the most liberal granter of mercy. Our respected sister Rehana Ismail is, I'm pleased to say, recovering from a cancer operation and is at home. But we continue to pray for her complete recovery, and also for the recovery of all those who are under treatment, people who are known to us, who are in our hearts, and we visualize them in our minds, members of our own community, but others as well in the world, that may Allah grant them healing and restore them to full health and make their treatment successful. Azhibil basa rabbin nase washfi anta shafi la shafi illa anta la shifa illa shifauka shifan la yubadiru sakama. Allah is the only healer. There is no healing except his healing. healing which is perfect, complete, and total, and we beseech Allah for that. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i zil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi ya'izukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. Ibadallah uzkurullah yazkurkum waduhu yastajib lakum wa la zikrullahi ta'ala akbar. We'll now say the 2 rakat Jummah Farz prayers.
Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala falah, qad qamatis salah, qad qamatis salah. Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal lazina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده
ربنا ولك الحمد.
حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون ثم يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين.
بلى وإنا على ذلك من الشاهدين.
الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده
ربنا
حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. اللہ اکبر. التحیات. أشهد أن لا إله اللهم صل على رب اجعلني السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ اللہم انت السلام ومنک السلام تبارک ربنا وتعالى یا ذا الجلال والاکرام استغفر اللہ ربی من کل ذنب واتوب الیہ رب اغفر وارحم وانت خیر الراحمین یا حی یا قیوم وبرحمتک استغیث وبرحمتک یا رب العالمین. That then is the end of our Friday service. Before finishing, I'd like to remind you about our monthly Sunday meeting this coming Sunday, the 7th of March, and we'll be sending around the notification of that meeting and its program probably later on today. So I hope you can join us on Sunday at 3 p.m. for that meeting and 3 hopefully excellent talks. So this program is at an end, and thank you for joining us, and we can now all say our 2 rakah sunnah prayers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.